And we'll open the public hearing at 7 o'clock regarding application that was received from S. Leticia Messmer, DBA Kamal Messmer, 18 North Thomas. Can you hear me now? No? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Application has been received from H. Tijuana Incorporated, DBA H. Tijuana Incorporated, 2179 Memorial Parkway, Fort Thomas, Kentucky, 41075, for an NQ retail malt beverage package license. The application is on file in the office of the City Alcoholic Beverage Control Administrator and will be finally considered at the City Council meeting on Monday, May 16th, 2022 at 7 o'clock p.m. at the Fort Thomas Mess Hall Community Center at 801 Cochran Street, Fort Thomas, Kentucky, 41075. Any person having good cause or reason to object to the granting of this license may appear before the ABC Administrator and be heard or may submit written comments prior to the meeting. Signed, Joseph Ewald, ABC Administrator. Does anyone have any comments regarding it? No? Then I will close the public hearing.
That's not. I can have a question. Is that the?
All right, thank you. We will call the regulars. Yes, I'm sorry.
I just have a question. Is that the location across from Southside Deli? Is that what that is?
No, it is the Marathon Station.
Oh, in the Inverness.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So not from us.
No, I started reading one.
Oh,
I boo-booed.
we got it all straight now? Everybody good? Okay. We'll call the regular meeting to order now, and if you can call the roll, please.
Ms. Kelly? Here. Mr. Pendry?
Here.
Mr. Bowman?
Here.
Mr. Beazle?
Here.
Mr. Blau?
Here.
Mr. Peterman?
Here. Pledge the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item is the minutes of the last meeting. I'll entertain a motion. I'll move to approve. Is there a second? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Great. We are to the point where you all get to talk. But boy, business communications, if you'd like to address council, please come up, state your name and address for the record, and tell us what you'd like to talk about.
As you know, my name is Chuck Keller, and I am the chairman of the Fort Thomas Forest Conservancy. And we are a 501c3 land trust, and our mission is to basically protect our natural heritage. We do that in two ways. One is through ownership, and the other is through conservation easements. Now, we hold a conservation easement for here in Tower Park. A conservation easement, for those of you who don't know, is a legally binding agreement that protects land in perpetuity, especially sensitive areas like the streams and the surrounding forests in Tower Park. I'd like to address the discussion regarding the proposed zip line or ropes course that we've been hearing about in Tower Park. We first became aware of this proposed project in mid-March. Now, I understand there's some intention to place it near the basketball courts, but that is directly on the conservancy, on the conservation easement, and is protected land, and thus a violation of the legal agreement that the city signed. I provided everybody here with all the pertinent information from that agreement as well as a map. We as an organization oppose this project. This is really, we don't think this is the place for an adventure amusement ride. This is a valued green space where residents can relax in the woods. They can breathe cleaner air, discover wildlife, native flowers, and plants. It already serves a greater year-round audience and purpose. The city has been really good stewards of public property, and the Conservancy values our working relationship with the city, and we want that to continue. But we urge you to not move forward putting a zip line or a ropes course in an ecologically sensitive area that is legally protected. Thank you.
Anybody else like to address council?
I'd like to follow it up, if you don't mind. The roach course has been talked about for quite some time now. We've gotten into the weeds with it, with Go Ape, gotten pretty far with it. I don't want to waste any more time and energy from the city or money going forward with this. When we were in the Parks and Recs meeting discussing this particular instance, one of the things when I looked over, Ben was there, Lisa was there, Jeff was in charge of it, looked over, if we said if the Conservancy group wasn't on board, we weren't going to go forward with it. They're telling us they're not on board. I did not think we should move forward anymore with any more discussions on the roach course. If there's enough council people who feel that same way, then I think we should listen to them, because if they don't have the support they need to go through with it. I, for one, listening to them, listening to the people, they don't want to mess with the forest out there, the trails. I commend Cora and Conservancy, what they've done, the value they've added. I was actually extremely surprised when I brought this up with several friends of mine who I thought were only for the sports in town, and how often they just said, don't mess with the trail system. And so it's just something I think the Cincinnati Zoo has a roach course now, so now there's direct competition, lessening the value of it. We have problems with the easements, and the Conservancy group doesn't want it. I just wanted everybody to discuss it and see how they feel, and if we have enough of us that don't feel that they want to move forward anymore, then I think we should end the discussion here.
Well, thanks, Adam. I was not council at that time, I guess, that those committee meetings were held, so I didn't really have a lot of information on this until today, but I mean, it might have been, I think it was discussed quite a while ago, so I had a little bit of information, but, I've attended Conservancy meetings, know folks that volunteer at the time for that, and I give great deference to myself. I don't have a lot of information on this, but I don't know why I would disagree with relying on them very heavily for a decision on this. So if this is going to save some people some time and have a comment, then I don't know, Ron, unless there's other information that we should have before I make a comment like this.
Well, I think procedurally it's a committee.
Okay.
Typically it would come out of committee with a recommendation, and then probably should follow that same course. I think this information, being a public record, then going on record should be part of that deliberation. The concept was in the community plan. A location has been explored at several different options in Tower Park. So I think if you truly do the process, this is a committee. I don't think committee members would appreciate pulling just one item out of a committee discussion and then putting it on the floor for a vote before it comes out with any kind of recommendation. That's really not typically how we conduct business. So I would just recommend that the information be forwarded to that committee and make part of the record with them, any attached documentation in regard to what Mr. Keller spoke to, and allow the committee the opportunity to continue that through the entire topic and make a record. They never come out. But in fairness to the committee, it's there, and it's really for them to dispose of it one way or another, with a recommendation to bring it to the council or to not bring it to the council. That's typically how it works.
And I think that would be the logical avenue to take, because as you know, Chuck, I came out the one time the Conservancy was doing the walking around, and I made it part of the walk before I had to leave. But I very purposely brought it up to say, hey, yes, we have a committee looking at this, and we have this really top-notch company in the world that does these things, and they're very interested in looking in our city. And that was the whole point, was to get that information out there so people could start talking about it and saying, is this something we want to do? Kenny made a comment at one of the last meetings, and I said, well, my next step prior to hearing that the Conservancy is not interested in was to go back to Go Ape and ask them to give us a little bit more specific about what they actually were proposing. Like, is it going to be just a zip line? And how big is it, is it going to go from this tree to this tree to this, what's it going to look like? So that we get a sense of what it would be like, and then we could all react to it. Because right now, all we have is just pictures on my website. And they look all pretty and everything, but some of the stuff I saw on there, I didn't think would look good down in this area. And since it is a conservancy, and Roger, you brought it up, that not knowing all the legalities of it, whether it's even possible, I did a little bit of research, and there are some other conservancy areas in the country that have been able to put things like very minimal zip lines within the conservancy based on the legalities of how they wrote that. But I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know. So I would hope that we would just leave it in the committee system, and then if there is any more interest on the committee to investigate anything else, we would, and we would bring it back before council. Otherwise, we just let it go. So, any other comments from council?
This premium company, or how did you refer to them, top-notch company, whatever, has been sued multiple times. There have been deaths on their attractions. This is something that we, our citizens of Fort Thomas couldn't just go enjoy. You have to buy tickets. So it's a paid concession, and I know there's a revenue sharing from them with the city. But anyway, it's no secret my position. I don't want to mess with these woods at all in any way. It's a sacred treasure. And so if it has to go to committee and get shot down, you know, I mean, just for process, and make sure the committee has all the information.
Absolutely. Okay, any other comments from council?
Lisa, how do you feel about this?
I would rather not have it. I mean, I originally, when we were brainstorming, I thought, you know, it was a nice concept, but I think it's gonna be pretty invasive, and I think our trails should remain trails.
This one, I asked Lisa that because it's Jeff, Lisa, and I in that committee. So those people here that are wondering if it'll come out of committee, you have two people who are seriously leaning on.
Well, as Ron mentioned,
I'm just letting people know where we are.
agree with the notion that you need to follow your process.
Sure, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
as
Just for peace of mind.
Ron mentioned, the zip line was in our comprehensive plan. That doesn't necessarily mean it has to be in the conservancy easement. There could be another place in the city that we could look at for potential zip line. It doesn't have to be there. So just the idea of saying we're not going to do a zip line anywhere in the city, I don't think it's the right way to go with it. We just leave it to the committee, and if there's another place that is a better location, that's a possibility.
We're not objecting to zip line road course anywhere in the city. It's where that protected area is.
Well, the other place we were thinking of was your backyard.
Come on in, let's add it to the other excitement.
I agree, Mayor, with the process 100%, because like I said, I really don't myself, because I've been on Councilor Solo's meeting and not on that committee, don't know all the facts. But I sort of do think we ought to have a final answer if there's a concern about a particular site, because you don't want people spending a lot of time and energy for something that's never going to happen.
That's my thought on it.
Yeah, so
Resources, time, energy, money. We just need to come up with an answer.
the idea of just dying in committee, I'd rather have, okay, let's just make a decision. Now, it's apparently just this one particular, that's what Chuck just said, it's this one particular site, so we could at least do that. But again, I'm not on the committee. We don't know the information they got.
Well, this next time the committee comes, I agree. There's a process.
All right, we are back to you all. Anyone else who would like to speak to council, please come on up, give your name and address.
Yeah, my name's Paul Pratt. I live at 58 Lockwood, right over there. And I just want to point out exactly what you just said is a joke about putting a zip line in his backyard.
It's your backyard.
That's my backyard. You always said it because you know nobody wants that in their backyard.
Yeah.
That's why you said it. So please think about that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
As you make this decision.
Yes, absolutely. We would not want to do that if people are not interested in it. Like I said, it was in the comprehensive plan as something that people thought would be neat for the city. If we could find a location that everybody said, yeah, this would be cool, and maybe if one person's not against it, okay, but if a lot of people are saying absolutely not, obviously we wouldn't do it. That's not our job. So,
All right. Well,
thank
see you out like what you said.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. All right, would anybody else like to address council?
I thought consequences, so I will wait unless there's others in line, business.
No, it's on different topics.
Good evening, my name is Erin Sizemore. I wanted to stop by the city council meeting tonight because I'm running for district court judge in Campbell County. I don't have a primary tomorrow, my election's not till November, but we are expecting a third child, so I had to awkwardly ask later, so I was trying to make case before the baby comes, and here they do make campaign onesies for infants. Just a little bit about myself. My husband and I live in Fort Thomas. I have been a career prosecutor. I began my career in Lexington, Kentucky as an appellate attorney where I prosecuted felony cases. I later moved to Fairfax, Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C., and while there I then served as a prosecutor, prosecuting all different types of cases, traffic, misdemeanor, juvenile, felony cases there. In 2015, my husband and I moved back home to our home state of Kentucky, and I began working as an assistant commonwealth attorney in Campbell County, and there I worked extensively prosecuting felony cases and also extensively on the Rocket Docket program, which helped low-level drug cases move quickly through the court system into drug treatment program. In 2021, I had the opportunity to join the Hamilton County Prosecutor's Office, another high-volume jurisdiction, and been there in the juvenile division, working as assistant prosecuting attorney in the juvenile division since that time. And I just wanted to stop by, introduce myself, and I'm happy to speak with anyone afterwards if they have any other questions. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, appreciate it. Anyone else like to address council? Oh, and reminder, tomorrow is election day. Even though you're not in the primary, everybody should go vote, please.
I should have worn my sticker. I'm Joan Ferris. I live at 66 Bernie Lane, and I'm here to ask what is going on in Fort Thomas. Did I blink? Did we all blink? How on earth did our city get so far off track that we are promoting the national movement to urbanize suburbia? The City of Beautiful Homes is on the chopping block with the vision to replace the beautiful homes on our tree-lined streets with multi-unit, high-density housing complexes. That's not who we are. That's not why we live here. Other than the federal government, who could possibly be pushing this travesty? Next, can anyone here give me the names of a Fort Thomas resident or residents who have suggested the term Central Arts District for a 2 or 3 block area that up until a week or so ago was officially deemed the Central Business District? There's written documentation of discussions about rezoning the Central Business District. This makes me curious if such a district no longer exists. We are and have always been suburbia. To eliminate suburbia and turn it into a generic urban block of land with a pseudo-Central Arts District is more than disheartening. We don't have a Central Arts District. We don't need a Central Arts District. We don't want a Central Arts District. I'm not suggesting that we return to just calling that area Shulpers or the Avenue or even Uptown. I'm just saying that an area that houses 2 carry-out restaurants, a drugstore, the school district administration building, 3 empty retail storefronts, an insurance agency, a bank, empty upscale condo units, and a coffee shop is not an arts district, not even close. To compare, as many times as Alejandro Mayorkas, the U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security, claims that our southern border is closed to illegal immigration, doesn't make it so. Same with the imagined Central Arts District. Repeating the phrase over and over does not make it true or make it happen. Third, last week's article on linkednk.com detailed that the city of Dayton, Kentucky was poised to approve the development of a 265-unit multifamily development, which they're naming Below Riverside. This is in addition to the development called Tapestry on the River, which is a 263-unit apartment community in Dayton. That's more than 500 new apartments engulfing the city at one time. Does Fort Thomas have that same goal? Are we closer to that than we could have ever imagined? Regarding the Dayton project, the condition of Route 8 was a concern brought up by Councilman Steve Bessler. The state has abandoned Route 8. Route 8 was offered to the county to take over, but the county refused that offer. The article stated that, according to Dayton City Administrator Jay Fawcett, the next step is to see whether the city of Fort Thomas and the city of Dayton are interested in joining forces to take that road over. Is this serious? Would Fort Thomas even hold a discussion of taking over Route 8? If so, then I have another question quickly, and it would be why. A side note to that article mentioned that Dayton residents are going to be using either Manhattan Boulevard or Route 8. Not too many of them are going to go toward Fort Thomas. They're going to go to work or shopping or wherever in the other direction.
Can you keep your comments directed to Fort Thomas and not Dayton, because that really doesn't have anything to do with us.
It does if we're joining a conversation to take over Route 8.
We're not taking over Route 8, so.
I'm going to have that answer.
Okay.
I go back to my original question. What in the world is going on in Fort Thomas? The walking trails in Tower Park are being overrun with an undesirable creeping foliage that will soon overtake the trails. 4th of July is now on July 2nd. A water splash park is under consideration of being situated in a gully that runs in the Highland Park Swim Club and Highland Avenue area. With water always running downhill, the gully undoubtedly serves as a repository for rainwater throughout the year. Sitting water is a perfect breeding ground for mold, bacteria, and moss. I strongly support a splash park for our town, if the budget allows for one. I only offer caution on the placement of such a park. A professional topographical survey is surely in order before considering a location for the splash park. Every citizen who asks a question or makes a comment at a council or board meeting gets, as part of the response, a directive that the meetings are open, you're free to attend them both. Basically, show up or shut up. I've been showing up. I've been to the past 2 council meetings and the past 2 zoning board meetings. No council members were at either zoning board meeting, and no zoning board members were at either city council meeting. That's not only wrong, but ill-advised. I'm appealing to you to change this behavior, and I will be asking the zoning board to do the same. Our city is changing, or at least being designed to change. Not tweaked, not gently modified, changed. Forever. There'll be no turning back after this. At zoning board meetings, the representative from CT Consultants stands and projects overhead snapshots of her proposed changes. She's very pleasant and is willing to answer questions from the community. And there are lots of questions. With that, and before moving forward with any more discussion on revamping the zoning of Fort Thomas, I'm formally requesting a public information session, more than one if needed, outside of the zoning board meetings. At these information sessions, the proposal should be presented in easy to understand terms. I would anticipate that the consultant would be present and available. However, I request that the information be presented by someone other than the consultant. One resident, a brilliant attorney with years of valuable experience in the field of building and zoning, asked for clarification on several parts of the consultant's presentation. The consultant answered her questions, no doubt. But the bottom line is that this resident, with all her experience, found the presentation very confusing and too technical to understand without the back and forth discussion with the consultant. This is not fair. If an experienced attorney cannot interpret the proposal, our residents should not be expected to appreciate the impact of that these proposals will or could be. A few weeks ago, I spent 2 hours in the zoning department at the Campbell County Fiscal Court building. Although that department does not determine zoning in Fort Thomas, the information I found there was immeasurable, and as I was directed to volumes of online maps that clearly presented the different zones in Fort Thomas, street by street and even house by house. It was a valuable time investment for me, but it's unfair to think the population as a whole would be willing to invest that same amount of time. I have nothing against the consultant who is driving the discussion and do not at all believe that there are sinister motives to her action. I do, however, have concerns that part of her terms of employment could be to incorporate the recent federal vision of zoning changes to benefit municipalities at the expense of suburbs like ours. I understand that this consultant does not have the heart of our city in her DNA. I understand that she might not live within 5 miles of where she grew up, or where her grandparents lived 100 years ago. I understand she might not know many families who are living in the homes in which they were reared, but we do. That's commonplace in Fort Thomas, and to me, we're all the better for it. We have love for and loyalty to Fort Thomas. There have been changes to our city over the years, but nothing will impact such large sections of our city to the degree that what is being presented at the zoning committee meetings will. Please pause this process. Democracy dies in darkness. It's time to shed light on these discussions. I repeat my formal request for a public information session, more than one if needed, outside of the zoning board meetings. Let the citizens hear and understand what is happening before it's too late. And with that, I yield back. Thank you.
Mayor, do you mind if I just comment on one aspect of the discussion? Yeah, how about it? I want you to understand, so I have been on city council a long time, even though I wasn't recently. So and believe it or not, I was actually on the Campbell County Planning and Zoning Board at one time.
Great.
So I've thought about these kind of issues, quite a bit that you're talking about. So just to get down to the theoretical level a second, the city council has a lot of broad responsibility to overlook everything from, removal of snow, picking up leaves to, dealing with budgets and technical matters, in-depth matters like that. I can't say I know enough about law enforcement that I can't rely on what the chief does, and or fire protection either. So, when we have to take this high-level view of decisions that have to be made, we have to rely on a lot of help from a lot of people, including people that come to these meetings like you that comment on what your opinions are. With planning and zoning, same thing. Those people are appointed because of their expertise and, I must say, their willingness to serve, which is a big deal to me, that they're willing to serve. So, and they develop their expertise because they spend their time just on that, not on everything that's going on in the city. So when somebody comes to them with information, and this has occurred before, that I've wondered, well, should I go to a planning and zoning meeting? And I specifically did not go because I didn't want to have any undue influence. Those decisions can be appealed to the city council. It really would not be proper for a city council member to go. I don't think, in my opinion, they can go if they want, certainly, but I wouldn't go because I don't want to influence what their decision is based on their responsibilities. I think and a lot of this stuff is statutory as well. I think it's a better approach for them to make decisions, and then those decisions can be appealed. I mean, that's sort of the way it works. So I'm just giving you a different perspective when you're saying, well, city council ought to go to planning and zoning. I really don't think so. That's their area of expertise, to a certain extent. Obviously, rely on that.
Even if you would go in an observatory.
No.
Why?
Because showing up at something can be implying that you're trying to influence a decision.
Roger, I have been going, I missed the last one, but I have been going just because I know it's kind of a hot button issue and I want to be as knowledgeable as I can about what's being proposed. And so I just quietly observe.
No, I mean, I'm not saying you should never go. That's categorical. See, I'm just saying theoretically. That's why I don't think, in general, city council members ought to go to planning and zoning committees because they're there, they volunteer their time, they're experts.
They were appointed. I was told the last time, someone came up to me.
By city council, or was it the mayor?
Someone came up to me and said, you want to do it, you volunteer to do it. I said, it's not a volunteer job, it's an appointment.
Well,
there's not a chance. No, I volunteer too. I've not been paid one dime for the hours that I've spent on this.
That's
so
not the question we're addressing. That's not what I'm
time.
trying to address.
But the fact is,
it's not what
I'm not
about.
certain of the qualifications of the people. Maybe they are, maybe they're not.
Well,
generally, when we vote
according to the mayor, they are. So, he appointed them.
I understand.
I'd like to perhaps
be told that
Look
again.
at that in real quick, because we've had this conversation in previous meetings,
Not
but,
me.
I'm sorry,
Not with me.
you were here at the last meetings, we did have this conversation.
I
And
didn't,
you didn't even hear what I said yet. Excuse me, but the conversation is about planning and zoning and the function of planning and zoning. I commend you for being at those meetings. I would, and I've stated this before, I would love for any concerned citizen that has any interest in the process of what our zoning ends up being to be present at those meetings. I don't think it's fair to question the credentials of those people. Some of those people have been serving on those committees for over 30 years. They volunteered their time for over 30 years. I think they are qualified, personally. The mayor appoints them based on qualification. You may disagree, and that's fine. You may not like the process, but statutorily, we are following the process. There will be opportunities in this process for anything that they're having discussion on to be shared in a public forum or multiple public forums. We had this conversation at the last meeting as well. Those will be advertised. Everybody in the community will have ample opportunity to be a part of that process, to hear and understand it in layman's terms, what it might be. And unfortunately, too often, we pick up the one thing we don't like and use that as a basis for criticizing the entire process. It isn't even finished yet. All the information that you're referring to, that's posted on our website, that is now available for discussion, is in a very much a draft form. It's an informational form made for the sole purpose of our planning commission, who will make a recommendation to this council by statute. They will not make a final decision. This group here will make a decision based on the recommendation from the planning commission. As Mr. Peterman indicated, that's their role in the process. When that is completed, everybody will have opportunity to see what is being proposed, comment on what is being proposed, come to the council meeting when it's being considered for a vote, and have an opinion. And I think that's wonderful. And I commend you for being concerned. I commend you for stating your concerns. And I would respect anybody's opinion and encourage them to be a part of it. But this group is not in a position to change that process.
I'm
By
asking for a
statute,
meeting, I'm not asking to change the
they will
process.
have meetings.
By
All
the
their
time-
meetings are public, Joe. All their meetings are public.
6:30 Wednesday.
And that is
I
part
understand
of, that is part of
So Chief,
understanding
you
what
are,
they're
you
doing.
are asking for a meeting to give you information that hasn't been decided yet, and I've answered several of your emails saying.
No, I've not sent you an email. I,
You know,
could
maybe,
not.
this is complicated.
You got me confused with someone.
I might have.
This is a big change. I don't disagree with you. I think you were very well spoken and thought out with everything you said, whether I agree or disagree with a lot of it. I have my concerns with the zoning, and a lot of it has to do with my knowledge of how it works. It's very complicated, as you said, one of your friends is very intelligent and does this stuff and doesn't understand it. I think in this particular case, because they're talking about rezoning 27, rezoning the central business district.
The Arts District.
The Arts District, yeah, that's something
They'll
I
have
can
a call
discuss
that
too.
anyway.
Yeah, no,
They
I'm a
won't.
big fan of the arts, but yeah, I'm worried about that label. But what I'd like to say is that maybe since before this process gets too far, maybe we do a council as a whole and a planning and zoning meeting combined where they share with us where they are to this point, so that when we get the information, we're more well versed on how this process works and what they have going on. Because if it is our decision at the end, as Roger stated, it's a little tougher to make that decision if we don't understand it. I've looked through it a few times, and it's complicated. I know there's a part in there that says, I believe, I could be wrong, that says something about the changes allowing planning and zoning to make decisions without going through council. It's on page 1 or 2, if I'm not mistaken. I would definitely disagree with that. But there are some things that I would agree with. So I think maybe because this isn't just one zone, this is the entire city or different zones, I would be up for a joint meeting if you would, Ron, how would that work if we were to do something like that?
Adam, the timing is wrong. None of these decisions have been made yet. Once the planning and zoning gets through their research of all the potential possibilities, that's when we have meetings. That's when they say, look, this is what we learned and this is what our recommendation is. That's when we have the meeting. There's no point in doing it now because they haven't gone through the whole process yet. This was determined to be, what, a year-long process.
I mean, they're only part of the way through the process. I would agree with the mayor. I don't think it's appropriate now to stop them in the middle of the process and say, what do you think and how should we react to that? It's not even decided, and I can't emphasize that enough. The community has an opportunity to have influence on it. That's how our.
I'm just trying to be as prepared as possible, and it's a lot, that's all.
I understand, but not unlike any individual in the community, there's going to be a lot of time for council to hear, to have it presented, to see it, to feel it, to read it, to research it, to hear from our consultant, to hear from the residents. That's all part of the process.
Okay.
That's all in.
This is the first time I'm going through this process, I understand you.
I understand, but that's all in front of us, and that's where we'll get to. If we're patient enough to allow the process to work, then that is where we will get to.
And Ron, I agree with his comment. I'm very glad that you're attending the meetings and you're finding out. It's just the timing that is the issue. Stay involved, pay attention to what's going on, keep yourself informed about it, share with your neighbors if you'd like. But there's no point in doing anything other than that until they come to a conclusion and finish their entire research.
When they make a recommendation,
Yes.
I anticipate, how many are on council?
6.
Pardon me?
6.
It'll be 5-1. The decision, I have yet to see a recommendation from
Well,
one of
that's-
the committees.
That
Well,
doesn't
Jay,
matter.
I
That doesn't
think
matter.
that's unfair to say, because I've been here a long time and I've seen recommendations brought from planning commission that were overridden by it.
Yeah, the last one happened, actually it did happen, I wasn't on the council at the time, but when they would change zoning for the storage units up at the south side of town. And I think that they came with a recommendation and the council did turn it down.
This is a bigger issue. This is just not a single zoning issue that we're talking about, why the storage.
Well, I'm just saying that it has happened. I was just
No, that's a
making
good
sure.
example. We are doing a complete look at the entire zoning structure of the city.
I understand.
That is required for us to do as part of our comprehensive plan to review our zoning. And we're going through a very thorough analysis. We've hired outside consultants to do it. And at the end of that process, we will get recommendations from planning on zoning to council on what changes, if any, are going to be made to our planning and zoning. That's the time we have the meetings. That's the time people can make comments about it, and that's the time that we can make decisions.
And then I'd like to interject one other thing too. That's the central business district where the drugstore and all that is. We didn't just now start calling it the arts district. That was when I had my business, and it's been years and years and years that has been considered the arts district. And we had the gallery next to the bank.
We don't
The
have.
art house. I know it's gone, and my business is gone. There are other things going on in the Village Players Building. That's also an art-related facility. So anyway, but it's not new that we're calling that the Arts District. It's been years and years and years, and so it may not be a typical Arts District. I grant you that at this stage, but anyhow, that's not new.
I appreciate your comments, and
All what I was asking for tonight is an information session.
at the end of the process,
No.
we will have it. Well, I'm
If-
sorry, we're not going to do one, but until planning and zoning is complete with their
And they decide
evaluation.
that we're changing everything in our
No,
city.
ma'am, that's
for
not how it happens. Okay,
First of all, the process is working very well. They're every Wednesday we have these meetings.
okay.
They're well attended. People have, let me finish. They have the opportunity to question and get their questions answered. This process is ongoing. I think this has gone on long enough. We absolutely are following this process the way it should be. And I welcome Joan and every other person that's interested to come to the meetings.
Yeah.
They're very informational. And at the end, I'm sure the right decision will be made.
That's right.
With proper input.
Thank you. Okay, does anybody else like to address council? Yes.
I'm going to live 25 Marguerite, and I was just curious if there was any update on the skate park that we talked about last year.
Yeah, the only update I can give you is there was, and you may be aware of this, there was a decision made to obtain some equipment that can be placed in different locations. So that is the intention. We're awaiting delivery on that, and it's through June. The first location that it will be placed is an area in Tower Park, over by the south part of, called South Park. Right. Not the cartoon, it's our South Park. But that'll be the first location, and then it'll be able to be mobilized to different locations. But there's several amenities, pretty basic amenities, that obviously allow it to be mobilized and placed in different places.
Is that the permanent solution, or is that just gauge interest?
That's just introductory. The intention is to see how it's received.
That's the one.
put it in different locations, just see where it might be a best suited, to place anything permanent.
Right. Do you have anybody that's got like history that speaks that's like advising or anything, or do you need anybody? I can think of somebody.
I think you are just volunteer.
Yeah.
Because I am not that person.
Really, I'm happy to do it. I'll leave my information for Jessica.
Absolutely.
Jessica got my number too, so if you guys have any questions.
We would welcome your.
Yeah, cool.
Thanks for.
That's why we're excited about getting this equipment that can be moved, and it's permanent equipment, but it can be moved to different locations, because it'll give us that opportunity, so yes.
Thanks for staying engaged. You know, you need to chip away at it sometimes. We don't move as fast as we'd like sometimes, but it's getting there. It's a good start, so.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address council?
I would, real short and sweet. Elizabeth Allegrini, 45 Lockwood Place. I'm just following up on the meeting from 2 months ago when I believe it was Peggy Maggio spoke on the website and how hard it is to dig through to find the meeting dates. Because there's recreation meeting, no idea when that was. So I'm just wondering, I know I spoke to Ben after the meeting, what solutions has council come up with to address that immediately? Because on one hand, you guys are saying to attend the meetings, and we know the planning and zoning is the third Wednesday of every month at 6:30, so we know that. Other than that, I have no idea when the recreation committee meeting is, when the finance meeting is. I think we need to attack this at multiple prongs to reach as many people as possible. So I was wondering if that has been discussed among this council?
I can say we have no committee meetings currently scheduled, on regular schedule. There's no recreation committee meetings.
They're scheduled as needed, it's not a regular.
I understand that. So how is that going to be communicated? Because you just haven't said, engage, in the thing. So, but if we don't know when the meetings are, how can we engage?
We'll post them.
Where?
On the website.
Under the calendar.
So how far in advance, like are we supposed to check this every day? Can they be posted in addition on the calendar? Can they be posted via Facebook? I know that's not ideal for a lot of people, but we seem to post a lot of things on there that the market is every week.
It's also gonna be on the app, the new app that we have.
It's currently on the app.
It's currently on the app.
Via, how far do you have to dig into the app to get the date? I guess is my question. Because if Jeff, and I'm not picking on you, but I just want to say if Jeff determines that they're going to have a recreation meeting next Tuesday, when will that be posted? Do we have to check these apps and calendars every day? I'm just asking.
I mean, we're trying to make it as obvious as possible. I mean, I don't know what else. We put them on the calendar. I mean, we post the agendas on the front page, right?
They're on underneath the event. So when you go to the calendar, you click on that event and the agenda is going to be there.
Hopefully, as the website develops, we're going to be working with it. But I mean, seriously, the opt-in option where you can say your areas of interest. I want to see that in everybody. I don't think anybody does.
I think improvements are on the way. If you stay for the whole meeting, you'll hear some of that conversation.
Yeah.
So, but real quick, and this is just a truly honest question, if a recreation committee meeting is put on the calendar, normally, how many days in advance? So I know that we need to start looking 5 days in advance, or?
I wish I could answer that, but it varies depending on when we receive information. I know that's not what you want to hear.
No.
But, for example, we're waiting to do a finance committee. We have to wait until our audit is available. We have to have our audit submitted from our auditor before we can post the date. But we're going to have to do it before,
I understand.
Elizabeth, also, I can speak in regards to finance. We don't have a meeting scheduled currently. We've got a budget hearing in June, so we're going to need to meet before that. As far as when the meetings get scheduled and how much lead time, it is not there's no concrete answer, but I can tell you that we do it to accommodate our schedule so that we can be present. And so we're not going to schedule a meeting for Wednesday, for example. And we'll do the best to get it out as quickly as we can. But anytime you or anybody has a question about finance, you're welcome to shoot me an email or give me a call, and I can tell you, hey, this is the meeting that's scheduled, or if we don't have anything scheduled, at least we're thinking for the next, might have a meeting in the next month, and we'll let you know so we can.
Okay.
You mind if I give you a different perspective, another perspective on this? There is actually a legal requirement, and you're not gonna like this, but it's 24 hours in advance. Now, you're concerned about, being able to attend these meetings, which is a valid concern, and I wish that was the only concern we had to take into account, but when these meetings occur, there are people that want to get things done. And so they don't want 21 days notice, and then they have to wait for some action to be taken. So that tension's always going to exist. It's just,
I understand that, but can you understand from a community member standpoint that, you're sitting up here and you're saying, attend the meetings.
Yeah,
but
no, you're
we don't know when
absolutely
they
right.
are. So
The first time you commented
I'll
on
wait
that.
for the rest of the meeting.
Yeah, the first time you commented on that, point well taken. But for somebody to say, okay, well, we're going to do everything 7 days in advance.
No,
It's
I
probably
understand
not.
that.
No, I know. I mean, but I'm just saying, just giving some perspective to it. Thank you.
All right, anybody else like to address council? Yes, ma'am, come on up.
Hi, I'm Jen Bellucci, 1 Rosemont Avenue, Fort Thomas. Two things brought me here tonight. One was when I heard about the zip lines, but it sounds like that's maybe not gonna happen with the Conservancy and such. But my big concern when I heard about it was the need for Riggs Park to get some attention. I am literally on the corner across the street from Riggs. If y'all haven't driven to that corner lately, probably should. It's a nightmare. It looks like a bomb's gone off, and that's what the supervisor said it was gonna look like. There's like a 25-foot hole there right now, right in front of my house. And anyway, the park's been pretty much destroyed. And my intention, and I've already reached out to somebody on council about getting some attention for Riggs now that it's all torn up. This is like prime time for it to get some work. Not asking for a lot of major things. I know it's a pocket park. It's not a destination park. The 3 streets surrounding Riggs are all parking on one side only. So, I mean, there's like a apron by the park. So there's only really 3 spots outside of residential. And I know because again, I'm right across the street. I can see the swings from my porch. And tons of people come there on a daily basis, well, when it was open. And I know, Ron, you're now out of here, but how long have I been talking to you about trying to get a basketball hoop there for the older kids? I've been talking to Ron so long about this, my kids are gonna age out of going to a park. Seriously. So, it's a great little spot. I mean, everybody in the neighborhood loves it. I don't have little bitty kids anymore, but as somebody that lives right there, I see kids going there all the time. And it's a heavily used little park. And in the time I've been talking to you, Tower's gotten tons of updates. Highland Park's gotten some work. It just seems like Riggs always gets forgotten about. And this is just a great opportunity now that it's a mess to just put some new equipment there, a couple other features. It's got a great little shelter there. There's a lot of people that have birthday parties, but there's nowhere for kids to go. They need to go to the bathroom. Like up at the basketball courts, we've got the portalet that's kind of enclosed. If there's something like that can be stuck there, the half court, just a basketball hoop for the bigger kids that want somewhere to go, and it's just little baby swings, kid swings. All I'm saying is it'd be great to have Riggs get some attention. Tower is great the way it is, and it gets better all the time. But I feel like this park gets overlooked all the time, and it's a great time right now for it to get checked out and some upgrades now that it's all torn up.
Ron, is ST1 going to share in the restoration of that?
Yes, so it's a little bit about opportunity, and we've had a lot of conversation. But we were aware that this was on the drawing board for a while, so we knew this type of disruption would occur. And it is significant, and we knew it would be based on the scope of the project. Everything's about timing and opportunity, and I think your timing is perfect because from here, it will get better as they finish their project. And the opportunity, we actually have some really good people available to help guide the process of taking a fresh look at that park and what it might offer. in the scope of what it is in your neighborhood.
Right.
And so I think that's the future for the park. I have every confidence that council will make the proper investment in that, and there's an opportunity there.
I hope so, because one of the supervisors on the job had said they're supposed to put the old things back in. And they're like, they literally just with one of the pieces of equipment yanked them out of the ground and set it to the side.
No, they actually have some obligation for restoration in there with the grading, replanting of trees.
That's good.
And then anything that was damaged
Sign
that was there.
but that's all. They removed a bunch of trees across the street from me, and I'm hoping it's a real mess.
If you're
it's
happy
a
with the
major
design stuff that
project.
we've done, we've got somebody that we work with that could take a fresh look at that part.
I would
I
love
think
that.
everybody would be.
Yeah, there are, just since I've been there, how long have I been there? It'll be 8 years, and, there's a lot of young kids that have moved to the neighborhood that utilize the park. The other thing I wanna mention real quick is, a neighbor to ours up that has a little girl, they live directly across from the park. And, it'd be really great once, if it does get some attention, to put a crosswalk there, because people fly down. I'm on the corner of Rosemont and Strathmore, and people come down quickly, I'm the lady on the corner that yells at people to slow down. But, if there's a crosswalk there, at least it's a visual that, hey, there's a park around it. The signs are there, but that doesn't seem to slow anybody down. So if there's a crosswalk there, and there's 2 signs, and, because they park across the street, they have to get to the park. So it'd be nice if there's a crosswalk there to, make it safer for them. But anyway, just really would like to see something done with it nowadays.
In the crosswalk, I think, again, opportunity, good timing. If we do a refresh on the park, it'd be a great time to institute those, when people can actually traverse roads.
Right. And like I said, I get that it's not you don't want to make it so grand that it becomes a destination park, because then families don't have anywhere to park to bring their kids, right? And then they're crossing streets that, where it's not safe or something, so it's just great to, revive a little bit what's there and make it better.
Do we need to make that some kind of motion to send it to committee to review it? Because I know there's a lot more involved. Chris Manning would have to get in there. And if we do that, should we go ahead and send those zip lines there too as well? Or make a motion for both those to?
Zip line there?
Well, yeah, why not? For your little kids.
I think that should just be brought up. I think we've heard it.
I just want to make sure it gets heard. Yeah, I know. That's all. I just want to make sure the process is done correctly and we gets heard.
I think it'll make its way to the record.
Good. And if I need to come and talk to the rec committee, I'd be happy to do that. Like I said, I don't have a lot of young kids anymore, but I'd love to see something happen there, because it is a great old park. And the other thing, it's a gateway to the city, so to speak, because you come down Memorial and it's like kind of one of the first things you see. So it would be nice to have a really nice park there, because people go, oh, that's great, okay.
That's perfect. Thank you.
So anyway, thanks,
Great.
appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Anybody else like to address council? Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, sorry. I just want to add to what Jen was talking about. I'm on Strathmore, and I do have 2 little kids. They're 5 and they're 3, and that was their main park that we just jaunted across the street to every day, every night. And I know we had talked about it just being a restoration and maybe SD1 having a part of that, but I do not want it to rely on SD1 and their ideas of the restoration of that park, because they are cutting directly through my side yard right now with a permanent easement, and their recommendations on how to put my yard back were not sufficient until we negotiated that. So I'm totally agreeing, and like something needs to be a refresher. I just don't want it to be just a restoration and relying on the sanitation department for some of that, or if not all.
They will not be the driver.
Yes, sorry. Taryn Latarullo, 95 Strathmore.
They will not be the driver of anything. It's finished product there.
Good.
Right, sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kate Creasy, 66 Lockwood Place. And I just had a question in regards to the tree massacre in Tower Park. If anybody is aware of it, and if you could explain it to me. Is that on city property or was that private property?
Here I was afraid you were going to pick a wall.
Well, you know, well, we'll bring it.
The tree massacre is
It threw me a curve because I was waiting because.
I'll give you a curve on the pickleball court.
Here's what I can tell you about that particular circumstance. That is on private property. We are working with the Division of Forestry. In fact, I think they came last week. The tree commission's aware of that. They're working with that property owner to do the best that you can at this point, and the potential for reforestation of his property, and a proper way to have completed the process that they've already taken on. So they're willing to hear that information and react to that information. We've brought them to the table. The tree commission's involved with it as well. So that's really kind of the status.
Okay. So you're aware of it, take care of it.
That house is 3 acres, a little over 3 acres.
It's ugly.
I know, but I mean, that's their ground, a lot of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Cool.
Sorry.
All right, well, since you brought up pickleball.
My bad, I'm sorry. I deserve that. We deserve that.
Can you give me an update on the Memorial Parkway, the donated land?
Yes and no. We own the property now.
Great.
We have done some very preliminary designs that one of the centerpieces of that would include pickleball courts. The council, in its kind of early stages in committee with the rec committee, is looking at the cost associated with that. It's been brought up in the finance committee with some of the ARPA funding that we have available that could be used for projects on that park to develop that park. So I won't say it's fast tracked, but it's not sitting there stagnant.
Right.
There's some infrastructure improvements that would be required in advance of doing that type of amenity at the park.
Right.
Obviously, the access issue and so forth. But I would say it's moving forward pretty quickly because there's some available funding that'll likely give us literal access to the property, address some of the infrastructure needs that can be funded out of ARPA, and after that, the committee of council and all of council could consider filling amenities like that.
And if we have any, would like to have an input, just attend these meetings.
Absolutely. I think there's some concept plans that actually have been already shared with council, and it includes that amenity.
It also appears that the intent for that park would be to make it more adult oriented, so we're not trying, attracting lots of kids in that dangerous stretch of road.
Yeah.
So that gives opportunity for more pickleball and gazebo and things that are more adult attractions for us old folks.
I think Ken's put pretty well on this. I think people can realize it's a beautiful piece of land. I've been up there, took my dog up there, but we have to be very, very careful on the attractions we put up there because that is an artery to Fort Thomas. And people will utilize that from out of town. So just be aware. I mean, not going to get a dozen pickleball courts if you get any. So that people are aware that that is a dangerous area and traffic it's got to be a balance. So,
But the cool thing is there's a lot of property there. So there's
Is
a lot
there?
of opportunity.
Like, how many acres is it, roughly?
I say that now, I can't.
Ron, do you know the frontage? Do you know how much frontage? It's a lot.
It's a lot of frontage, but I don't even want to say, but it's at least 10 acres.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Anyone else like to address council? All right, on with the show. We've got a bunch of stuff on the agenda. We'll start out with, what's next? Fire Department monthly report.
Oh, receipt files. He got nothing to add, I guess, to the report.
The only thing I was going to add is that last month we appointed Buddy Briggs as firefighter paramedic, and I'm happy to say today's his first shift. He's going to get his orientation to the back of the staff.
Correct, unanimous.
Second to receive and file.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, police department monthly report.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll just hit a real quick highlight. We had our drug take back in the spring in April, collected 131 pounds of prescription meds that need to be disposed of properly. So once in the spring, once in the fall, and the drop box is always in the lobby. Happy to collect that much prescription drugs. That's all.
Wow. Entertained motion.
Move to receive and file.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, city administrators report.
I'll just update on a few projects for I'd like to start with the city building. I don't know that I always bring good news, but it is progressing. Not a lot of new report on timing. We're still stuck with our lead time on our specific item that's going to hold up total completion. But I will update on the progress otherwise, which really looks like, other than that lead time issue that pushes us back into August, perhaps, or even September, which can't be helped, so we won't rehash it. But inside, if you haven't had an opportunity to be inside the building, they are completing finished paint colors. The tile in the bathrooms is being completed. In fact, I think the first floor tile is done. They're doing ceiling tile install and grid work. So a lot of the finished materials are going in place. On the outside, the power washing and the staining that will occur on the facade in the front of the building will take place in the next week or so. And really within the next 30 days or 45 days, the building will generally be complete. The back cannot be complete until the final electric is done. And that can't be completed until we receive that last item in the whole process. So, good news, bad news, your city building is near completion. Stay tuned on that. A couple of other quick updates. The street program, Wilbur's Lane, if you've been by there, they have one half of the road completely done. The other half has been torn out, all the curbing is in, and they are finishing, and they're a little ahead of schedule, which is good. Should be done in the next few weeks. And that project is, of course, a carryover from the 2021 street program. So it is not on the same schedule, not the same contractor as our upcoming program. I mentioned before the Tower Park swings, the Mess Hall walkway, which you can see outside here. We did a great job growing grass in the 11th hour. I don't know if Tiffany's here, but we do our in the mess hall, we do our weekly farmers market, and it moves outside. It'll be ready for that move. So some things actually fall into place correctly. In the back, we have the pergolas that will overlook the river, and the swings are ordered, and we're just waiting delivery on those. The Tower Park shelter restrooms back here by the ball field. We're starting to see that come out of the ground, and I don't think we have any lead time issues on that. I think we resolved all of those things, so that'll spring out of the ground and be completed probably in the next 60 to 90 days. And the last item I had was an update from a prior committee meeting with our buildings and utilities, and we have made some progress on research with the charging stations, which the committee will pick up in our next meeting. And the street lighting and the turnover to LED lighting throughout our community. We are getting final numbers from Duke Energy, and those numbers are coming in approximately what we discussed in committee. And we'll be asking the finance committee to take a look at that. It's a pass-through item. It's an upfront cost. It'll come out of reserves, and it'll have a return based on usage. So for example, the Coverhead lighting would cost $420,000 to convert everything that we have in the community. And it would have a 7-year return on investment. The remainder, what they call post-top lighting, is about $175,000 investment. That's a little longer return. That's some of the specialty lighting. We do have areas in the community that have different types of lighting other than an overhead off of regular utility poles. So council will have that presented as part of the budget process. I did not have any other update items, unless anybody had questions on
particular project for item?
I have a couple. You mentioned the swings in Tower Park, so is that right here, and that's only the swing?
That's the part in the back overlooking.
Oh, those
Off of
okay,
Alabama
but
Circle.
as far as playground equipment here goes, do we have any kind of timeline? I get a lot of.
There have
grief from
been
people.
multiple meetings with the staff, I know the mayor's been involved, just looking at the concept, you're referring to the replacement of this area, yes. It's a really important project because it's so central and key and obvious to our community. So we've had a lot of good conversation about what that might look like with our consultant. So Chris has done some different details on what that might look like, but it's not ready to move forward yet. It'll go to committee next.
There's been a lot of back and forth with the design. The feedback that we've received, both from internal staff and community members and myself, with Chris's firm, he's done a really good job accommodating some of that feedback. So it's truly in the initial designing stage, and we're trying to kind of fast track as we can because you know the equipment is.
We're gonna go through probably another summer then, as is, it sounds like, with supply chain.
Oh, yes, yes, absolutely. I think good timing on that would be that you make a decision later this year. It gets put out for bid, you know, sometime later this summer maybe, or in the fall, with the intention that it's constructed before next spring. You would never accelerate quicker than that.
Two other items I had concern about. One of them is publication of record. Campbell County Recorder is no longer going to go to anybody's homes in Fort Thomas. We're going to have to soon make a decision on the new publication of record.
Well, I
think
the statute will dictate where we land on that. There are under statute, there's specific qualifications for that to be a record. They have to have a certain certification for us to use them as our required advertising for any of our public meetings or any of our publications.
But that's a fairly urgent decision that's going to have to be made. I mean, you know, if we're going to meet our legal requirement to post for meetings, I just think that needs to get resolved pretty quickly, it seems, to keep our legal.
We'll make that first word.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, great. And then I have one other concern. Several years ago, we had the donation from Kathy Scope, whose husband was Mike Scope, the artist of the statue that was at Gateway. It's been in storage all these years, and Destin and Chris had it placed, or a plan to place it at the end of Tower Park, which was going to be fantastic. I said Highland Park, at the end of Highland Park. But now we're kind of in limbo, and it's basically, I visited the statue and it's laying outside, and then it's in two pieces instead of one unit. But that really needs to be moved and put into storage, safe storage somewhere until the infrastructure can be put in place.
What's the statue?
I can show you a picture. It's called Kentucky Settlers. It's huge. It's a gentleman with his wife and a little baby, and they're probably 9 feet tall, raw steel. Mike Scope was an amazing sculptor. And so I can show you pictures if you want to see. But it's really, really, it would be awesome there, and Chris agrees.
It's set on the hill in Covington where the old gateway was, overlooking.
And then Gateway was sold to turn into condos. I made it in Carolina. So we got Jose move it and store it, and at the time, that was a donation to the city of Fort Thomas. He needed a crane and everything. It was a serious undertaking. But now, I don't know that we can get them to move it again. So we're going to have to come up with a plan on our own, using Arts Rental or whatever, to relocate it. But it's a real key piece.
Could you send a picture to maybe Chris Manning and all of us so we can visit that and get it taken care of?
Yeah, I mean, I can distribute the picture. It's on.
Yeah, just distribute it via email, and then I would assume we'd have to work with Chris. Is that correct, Ron?
He's already designated.
I'm for this for sure. So you just help Ron.
But I mean, now the city's going to have to participate in the relocation and pouring the pad for it to be up on these big stilts, to keep it out of harm's way, and also for the sight line. I'll send you photos, but I just want that to be on our radar, and not just to lay in the weeds and snooze on an opportunity like that, because it's a really special piece and great place to put it. But that's all I had.
I'd like to go back to the park equipment real quick, because they were talking about Briggs Park, and the Tower Park will be such a huge undertaking that it might behoove us to, if Chris can, because Briggs Park's not a huge design, maybe think ahead on some equipment we can piggyback onto that order if we get a better price for that large order, you know. So I think it would just make sense if we're ordering all at once. It takes a long time to get it out. It would just, any dime we could save, because I don't know how many people are aware of this, but it's unbelievable what that equipment costs. I mean, it'll be $1 million to do Tower Park. So, $2 million. I mean, it's a lot. So I just want to make that suggestion that we can get that done. You know what I mean? So we have all summer that she was playing that. Thanks for no comments.
I'll make a comment. You take a lot of heat and about a lot of things, but I did notice in your report, you didn't mention, I don't think, about the landscaping that's going to be done in front of the city building. That bid was received, it's going to be done by June 30. Well, I challenge everybody, or would remind everybody to look at the landscaping that's out in front of this building. And that was done just a short, it wasn't done when the building was originally done, and it looks fabulous. So thanks for a job well done, something everybody can notice and realize, yeah, you know, the city can do some things right.
Well, Mr. Mayor, that was my last report to City Council. If you haven't heard, I am retiring. So in my farewell, I have no prepared speech. I would just like an opportunity to thank everybody in trying to get through this. But
37 years?
36 plus years. So I started in the city in 1985. I was a student at Northern Kentucky University. Pulled a poster off the board for a job opportunity and walked in. I was not in public administration. It was something that interested me and intrigued me. So I came and interviewed and received an opportunity to do, really it was a co-op job that I worked into a full-time gig somehow. And Jeff Earlywine was the city administrator at the time, and I was fortunate enough to have opportunity to learn a lot when I was here originally with the city. Left for a short time when I graduated college, and then had the opportunity to come back as the director of building services. Since that time, I've had great opportunities to grow here, do different things on behalf of the community, which made it challenging and interesting in a continuum. And this gentleman gave me an opportunity to be the city administrator about seven and a half years ago. I think the headline was, I guaranteed 8 years. Well, I didn't quite make 8 years, and I never said that, so. But anyway, I do appreciate it. It's been, you know you're living your best life when you can get up and not feel like you're going to work. And that's really the way I've always felt. And so I'm grateful for everybody along the way. Certainly the people on council, the support in the community. You know, I kind of live a dream all the way to the very end. I mean, when I made a decision to move on, Eric and council and really the whole community have been supportive of that process. And that has been really kind of a godsend for me, because it would have been hard, as you can tell, to just walk away. And I didn't have to do it that way. And I'm thankful for that. On the receiving end, I have a great opportunity. I have an opportunity to do something that's right in my wheelhouse that I will continue to enjoy. I keep teasing it's like going to a little tiny city compared to Fort Thomas, but it'll have its challenges in a different level. So I'm excited about that. Proud of where we've been. We have unequivocally, with all due respect, Matt, that you're going to meet here in a minute, the best staff in Northern Kentucky for a city. We are lucky. Roger, you point that out. I get to work with these people every day. I appreciate what they do, the support they've given me. It's been a great ride. I look at the people, I know Ms. Cruzy left before I've known her since high school. Elizabeth, that is Brooke sitting over here by you. Elizabeth coached all my kids in soccer, my boys, when they were this big, and Brooke was in a little seat that we carried her around. My wife Cora sitting here as well, and I told them to come because I wasn't sure I would get through this, but I'm not sure it was a good idea because when I look at it, but I do appreciate all of you. I appreciate the opportunity. It's been fantastic. And, you know, I guess words of wisdom that I would take from this over time is it takes a community to make a community. And I hope that for the people sitting out there, you realize that we're all partners here. These people are working on your behalf. And I appreciate so much the effort that they put in, the fact that they put themselves in these chairs. And please keep in mind that they're never the enemy. They are us. They are you. They're volunteers. They are literally volunteers. They are not getting paid to be in these chairs. So please remember that. It's a partnership always. For the members on council, and I know I had the opportunity to meet Andy and some of the other ones that are running, my best advice to you from my experience is if it feels political, you're doing it the wrong way. Because at the local government level, you do not have to do it politically. If you're doing it correctly, it's because we're neighbors and friends, and we all care about the city the same way. So with that, I'll stop crying. I'll stop
We appreciate you too. I'm gonna steal mine back.
I think they did that on purpose.
I think
Nobody
they did it
wanted
on
to hear
purpose, too. Nobody wanted to hear it. Anyway, I do want to say that it has been absolutely the highlight of my career, my life, to be able to work with you for this city, because I feel the same. We are so blessed in the city of Fort Thomas. We have such a great city. Can you imagine what our country would be like, what the world would be like, if we could replicate what we have in this city and put it all over the country? Because we have people who care, and that's what it's all about. And we don't always agree, but we care, and that's what's so great about it.
My apologies.
My allergies. You know, I love springtime. I love the buds. I love the trees, and it drives me crazy. Anyway, back when Don Martin left the city and we were looking for a new city administrator, I had to go through the process of looking for a new one, and Ron was put in as the interim for a couple of months while we looked, and he said, no, I've been doing this for a long time, I don't think I'm really interested, I'll put my name in, but go out and look for other people. We went through a lot of resumes, we went through a lot of people, we had a committee, we researched just as we did for his replacement, and the thing that we had a lot, and I saved him for the end, because I thought, okay, I want to see what the competition is out there, see what our possibilities are. And we had some very viable candidates. And we had one or two that I thought could be really good, and then he came in and he literally blew us out of the water. I mean, he was so excited. He had had a taste of the job for like 2 months. And it changed his whole mind on his attitude about continuing to work for the city and taking on this position. And it was the best thing, definitely the best thing for the city, best thing for him and for me in this position. It's been absolutely wonderful. In fact, so much so that we as a city, I felt like we needed to do something to remember you by, because of your commitment to the city for so many years. And we had talked about the idea that we've got these wonderful parks and these wonderful shelters that have numbers on them. And we thought, no, we can't do that anymore. We got this great ball field back here and a new shelter and a new playground. So we would like to name the softball field in this section after you. We call it the Dill Field. All right, can we do that? Now, I do have to say that my original idea was to name the pickleball court section. And I guess that didn't work real well.
Well, thank you, I appreciate that. I'm humbled beyond belief, just for the opportunity to finish my career this way. And again, I thank all of you for everything you've done to support me. And I'm honored in ways that I can't even express to you. So thank you so much. I've lost skin back there, literally, playing softball and otherwise, but very humbled by the gesture. Thank you.
I'm excited. I didn't want to say that for some
I thought it was too much. I just wanted to give you the old truck. But, you know, Ron, I don't know. I'm sure everybody would like to say something or thank you. I mean, I can't thank you enough. I really think it was a highlight of your career to get work with me. But I don't know that I would have gotten as far to understand the commitment or what this takes in understanding the people I work with. If not for you, talking off the ledge a couple times, you know how passionate I can get, you know what I mean? You never said anything ill about anyone really in the community or on council ever when I called to you know, talk about my ideas or discussions on why I didn't believe in something. And so big shoes to fill, for sure. And naming a softball field probably doesn't do what you've done for our city justice. And I hope we can, I won't steer it off the path that you have left us on. Too bad. Just a couple of turns here and there. But it's a very sincere thank you. Everybody should have been as fortunate as they have a relationship that we have had or I have had with you. So thank you. I appreciate it.
You were just kidding, right?
No. About naming the field? No, I'm not kidding. I think that's absolutely. I was kidding about a dill pickle court. I still think that would be funny though. Pickle court. If we get that done, I think we're still going to name that the dill pickle court.
At least one of the courts has to be that. Yeah.
Yes, right. No, but we're serious because we talked about that. We thought I know you didn't have yourself in mind, but listen, what you've done for the city over the 36 years has been 37, whatever it's been pretty dramatic, and I think it's definitely worth having that full name right there. So
Thank you so much. My son plays there now, my stepson.
there you go. There you go.
Like I said, I left some skin in the game back there. More ways than one. So thank you.
All right, where do we go now? Do we want to?
I think we need a new city administrator.
Yeah, we need a new city administrator. So, as I said, when we dealt with Ron, we went through the same process, and I got a committee together, and we put out the resumes. We got lots of resumes. We got people from all over the country. We got people from Iowa, from Tennessee, Illinois, I don't know, a whole bunch of different cities. And we had some local people too. We had some folks that were actually Fort Thomas residents. And we were very fortunate to be able to get Matt Kramer, who is a Fort Thomas resident and was the city administrator in Erlanger. And he is with us tonight. If you want to stand up, you want to come up and talk about it. Welcome to Fort Thomas. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Mayor.
Try not to cry.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate Mayor and Council giving me this opportunity. You know, my family and I, my wife Angie trying to hide right there, and my 3 kids, you know, we've all been talking about how excited we are to do this, and you know, coming in here and talking to a handful of council members and hearing people are excited to have me. That's I really wasn't expecting that because this is really incredible for us to be able to do this. So I'm really looking forward to starting on Monday and you know, getting to meet the staff and work with them more. You know, Ron kind of started me in this career. I met him as a resident here, handling some other issues that were happening, and I built my house. And when I was a police sergeant, I decided to try out and put my name in for the city administrator position at my city. And I reached out to Ron for his advice, and he talked to me for about 2 hours, giving me tips and stuff. And ever since then, he's been really a mentor for me. So he's gonna be missed. He's not gonna change his phone number because I'm gonna be continuing to reach out to him and seek advice. I've already, hopefully, right?
It wasn't me that said that.
So, Ron, you've been a great mentor, a great colleague to work with over the last 5 years, and I appreciate that. And I know that won't end, and you'll be helping me in the future here too. So we're just really excited to be here and get started next week.
That's awesome. Welcome to Fort Thomas. Welcome to your family. Welcome to the class. So I would like to drop down to do the municipal order to make this official. Melissa, if you could read it. Municipal Order MO 10 2022, if you can find it. Yeah. Sorry, I should have posted it.
That's okay.
Sure.
Municipal Order MO 10 2022, a municipal order providing for and appointing Matthew Kramer to the position of City Administrative Officer for the City of Fort Thomas, Campbell County, Kentucky.
I will entertain a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Kelly. Mr. Petrie.
Aye.
Mr. Bowman.
Aye.
Mr.
Aye.
Mr. Blau.
Aye.
Mr. Peter.
Aye. And Mayor, aye. Oh, no, but I don't know.
And mostly me. Aye.
Yeah. Ron, welcome. Yeah, you broke the time. Welcome, thank you. Thank you. We're excited to have you. Okay, we got a few other things on the agenda and some really exciting stuff too. So, we are down to new business, report from the branding selection committee. So, Chanda, take it away. And sorry you all had to wait through this long meeting, but he gave you an idea of what the whole city is about. And that's your job, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, you can figure it out.
You already made me tear up, so it's great. Excellent. So just a quick recap. We started this process in January where we put out a request for proposal, and we received 12 of them from Ohio and Kentucky. We made a committee of 15. 2 of the council members, Mr. Blau and Mr. Bowman, were both on that, as well as city staff members, as well as other community members. And we all met a few times at the very beginning to vet all of the applicants, narrowed it down to 4, and then we created a smaller committee, and we went through all 4 of, I'm sorry, it was 5 at that time, all 5 of the applicants, and then from there we all came back together where they all made a separate presentation. And we ended up with choosing Brand Fuel, and we have Mark and Kelsey and Stephanie with us today that would like to give you a little taste of what they shared with us. This one's fun. Thank you.
So real quick, I'd just really like to thank you guys. Throughout the whole process, we really learned a lot on your city. For those of you who haven't met us yet, we'd like to share just kind of a brief intro to who we are, kind of the work that we do, kind of the style, the way that we approach things. I can tell you that everybody inside of our office, we're all thrilled about this opportunity. We're your neighbors. Some of us had families that had businesses here. Some of us have lived here. So we're super familiar with the area. I've been a Northern Kentucky person my whole life. Stephanie has as well. So it's just a great opportunity for us. We can't wait to bring this to life. And all joking aside, hearing stories like this and hearing that passion and seeing that, these are things that we want to bring to life. And even hearing you say, if the rest of the world functioned like this, we'd be in a much better place. We want to show people that. We want you guys to talk that way. We want you guys to show it that way through the branding. And that's what we'll hold ourselves to as we go through the process. So we're 8 people total. We're in Covington. We're right across from Braxton. So if you know where Hotel Covington is and where Braxton is, we're kind of sandwiched in between. If most of you probably know, Mike Landberg's hardware store is probably the closest landmark to us. We work on a lot of local brands. We work on a lot of worldwide brands. We'll show you some of those just quickly. But that's kind of, this gives us a good flavor of who we are. So Maker's Mark, Fifth Third Bank, Kellogg's, Kashi, but just to name a few of them, we have a really great reach. For 8 people, we've really done some amazing things. We're super proud of who we work with. Kroger is a great one too, that's a local one. But just tons of people who have trusted us to take their brand, take it to new levels, and we'll show you some of that work here in just a second that kind of proves that, as you can see. Fort Mitchell Country Club, just another fort that we worked on recently. Just a great brand story. We really wanted to play up the fact that it was named after a fort, just similar to here. And really playing up that part of it with the flag on top of it, but also playing the golf part of the flag. If you've ever been to Fort Mitchell Country Club, you'll notice kind of the hills at the back. That's looking out the back of the country club and seeing kind of the rolling hills that make the golf course. And then incorporating the 1904 into the brand. Virginia Distillery, whenever we build out a brand, we build something with a lot of story in it. So similar to what we've started to hear from you guys tonight, just quickly, it has a split V in it. The split V was because the founder came from the UK. He relocated to Charlottesville, Virginia, wanted to build a distillery in the Blue Ridge Mountains, fell in love with Virginia, wanted to bring as many things from home as he could there. There's 10 spikelets of barley that you'll notice above the V. Virginia's the 10th state. So we always build in a really great story into everything that we do, and we really want you guys to have something to talk about with your brand, and this reflects that. Robot Q is a recent one that we just branded, just finished actually. This will start to roll out over the next few weeks here. They build kiosks that fit in communities similar to Fort Thomas, so they're wayfinding kiosks. Just a really cool brand. We did the naming, all the communications around it, the Embark Intelligently, which we could always share more about. I won't do it tonight, but there's plenty of story kind of built into that. Best Way, you guys may have been familiar with Best Way. I'm sure they probably, been part of the conversation for garbage disposal in the city. Best Way, interesting. Best Way, truly their brand, they're embedded in every community that they work in. Hence the triangle kind of in the center of the branding represents that. They have a local presence everywhere that they are. So we really wanted the brand to reflect that. This is actually rolling out right now also, so we're proud to say 2 of the last few that you've seen are 2 of our most recent pieces of work. 3D Color, that's just another local, it's a comping house, just a really good example of some branding that we have done. Probably about 6 months ago, branding website. We're actually working on an app development for them right now too. And then you'll notice Shaping First Impressions. What their company does is actually for P&G or a client like that, they build the first mold, they build the first prototype of a product. Shaping First Impressions is the perfect tagline for them. And we'll be working on things similar to that to you guys. We truly partner with everybody that we work with. And you'll see things like this throughout the creative process that we'll bring up and point out and bring to your attention as we're kind of going through that will really help enhance how the city is viewed. Maker's Mark has been a long-standing client of ours. Anything that you've seen from Maker's Mark, probably since the original bottle that was created in 1953, we've been responsible for. So just a great brand. It's a great Kentucky brand, very iconic Kentucky brand. It was actually built by Mrs. Samuels, one of the founder's wife. So we've preserved the heritage. We've preserved everything that she's kind of built the brand up for. And we know that that's going to be part of this for you guys. You guys have a ton of heritage here, and we want to make sure that that's captured as well. And then finally, just some things from the Covington area where we were located. The Roebling Point District, this has been something they've been working on for quite some time. We did want to share that with you, just because it's a nice local, kind of really close to our hearts thing that we've kind of worked on recently. Reserve Squad, just another quick branding example. And then you want to talk through
Yeah. So this is just a quick overview, just to give you guys a quick synthesis of how we work, right? And we'll talk to you guys a little bit about just how our process is and how we shared with the team. But it really is, like, you want to get the story of a brand, right? Mark talked a lot. There's a lot of meaning that goes into this, and that happens by listening, right? We need to listen to all of you. We need to listen to the residents, the businesses, the community, the city, right? And we take all of those and we create a story that really threads the needle, right? Creates continuity between where we're coming from and where we want to go. So a lot of that brand story comes to life. We create assets that have meaning to them. You create language that really starts to build the intent, all of the experience around the brand. And then you start to bring that to life through all of your different assets. So this just kind of gives you just a little snapshot of the process. And what's great is we work with a lot of people that sometimes have never gone through a branding process. And so as we go through this, again, we'll continue to just say, here's where we are, this is where we're going, this is what that looks like, and just make sure that, again, that communication is really fluid within the city. So as you guys shared with us, again, we always love to crystallize, like, what is the challenge? And so out of that RFP, it was really about renewing that sense of community pride and elevating the vibrancy of the city. That doesn't mean anything's gone. It's just how do we continue to amplify what exists, and again, really thread the needle between the different targets that you guys have, right? You have passionate residents that we heard from today. You have the city, you have business leaders, people who, have been here for a long time, and you're continuing to grow and you want to bring visitors to the city. How do we just continue to be that destination point for all of those different audiences, and continue again to elevate and bring that vibrancy to the city? So things we love, as we shared our RFP, I just thought I'd give you a little snapshot of our team, and these are some of the things when we listened to even our team about this that they had to say. Hopefully the volume will play.
So my favorite things about the city of Fort Thomas, I absolutely love the architecture there, but most importantly, I love the sense of community pride that all the citizens have.
One of my favorite places in Fort Thomas is the Tower Park Beltway Trail. Just a great place for natural beauty, history. We discover something new there every time we go. It's got great challenging hill lines. It's like the hill sense. There's always either a new this or a triumph that we walk away with. Just a great place to go now.
We were really excited about the resident of Fort Thomas, and not only did we look out for incredible neighbors, but everyone we came across with, they were so friendly. We loved the cobblestones in the streets, the farmers market, and everything about Tower Park and the trails were unforgettable.
I have many great memories of Fort Thomas. My grandparents owned Cameron's Best Furniture, and at a young age, when they would have their yearly sales, I was the granddaughter passing out the butter cookies to all of the visiting guests. Now I get the pleasure of taking my 4 boys to many basketball, baseball, and soccer games at all of the local parks.
I'm excited to dig deep and discover what makes Fort Thomas unique so that we can celebrate the personality of such a vibrant community.
With so much history, I'm really looking forward to rallying the community with a common vision and an exciting brand refresh that inspires the future of Fort Thomas.
I'm excited to express the many reasons that I found Lower Kentucky. The beauty, the kindness, the hometown feel that you get here is so unique. I can't wait to bring that to life for Fort Thomas.
Hi, I'm excited to work on this project because I have many fond memories in Fort Thomas. Designing this will be a great opportunity to grow the city and help many more create joyful memories for years to come.
So hopefully you guys get a little bit of passion from our team. We love to align ourselves, from a value standpoint with people that are very passionate. If you can't hear from us just talking, we get really energetic and excited about these things. So again, just really listening and expressing that enthusiasm and translating it to something that is just really powerful for the city. So we talked a little bit about just the approach, and this is what we shared in our RFP. Really 4 phases similar to what we talked about, and there's just some visual examples down below. But first we're gonna immerse and build the brand, and immersion all starts with insights and listening. So there's gonna be a lot of conversations, interviews, there'll be some surveys that are sent out. So again, that engagement is gonna be really critical as part of this process. We'll come back and share with you guys, here's what we heard, here's how we want to crystallize this, here's what we think are recommendations for the brand. We'll really finalize
that strategy in phase 2. We'll start to bring it to life. So we know, again, within the city, what that looks like for signage across, a lot of the vehicles, looking at the website. I know we heard some interest in optimizing things on the website. So not only the user experience, but how the brand really presents itself. And then again, how do we sustain that momentum? A brand is not a brand that you just put out and leave, right? It's something that you maintain and you continue to build momentum with. So we'll have plans for you guys how we really start to just continue that engagement, add, again, conversation and dialogue, and really just everything that the city stands for really bring to life for the city. So we're looking forward to it. Again, we believe you guys have incredible opportunity. There's amazing people here. There's so much architecture and history. We are just feeling very blessed that we were selected to bring it to life.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much. Any questions you guys can ask?
So one of the first things when you get through this process is the signage for
there you go.
The field, the shelter.
Yes.
Pickleball.
How are we going to do
There
that?
you go.
And do that in other areas too. And how do we identify it? And yes, so I'm excited.
Letterhead. We're gonna have letterhead.
Absolutely. And consistency, right? Consistency. Thank you guys very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I ask a question? What's the time frame that we were talking about,
I'll send you.
Yeah, great. It's a process, right? And so again, I think we mapped out, and I forget off the top of my head, roughly, I think it was like 4 to 6 months with the process. So part of that is creativity is an iterative process, and we want to make sure that we shared and refined and done it the right way. And so roughly about 4 to 6 months, I would say.
Implementation crucial too, right?
Yes.
Soft approaches, maybe.
Yeah, so you'll kind of, it's not like, hey, it's all done at the same time. Like, we'll definitely, again, want to do it in an economical way too, that it's like, you start to bring things in, you can do a launch party to get people excited about where we're going, create that advocacy within the city. So there's a lot of great things as you think about the launch.
So are you okay that this ball field's being named after Ryan?
You don't have to answer.
For the right price.
I was really voting for the pickleball.
It's
too obvious for you.
I want to really thank Chanda and Sam and Kathy Sonnet, who's not here tonight. Ken and I had the privilege to be on this committee, and I had never been through anything like this before with the quality of people we had applied. It was a tough decision to make, and the way that Chanda handled it and made it even. The way that Kathy helped explain, because she's in your world, how to view these proposals and what to get out of them. And it was something I think it was very special to be a part of, and I'm excited to see what this brings. And so many people know we're not changing the city seal on this, but over years, the city of Fort Thomas has developed a lot of fingers from the Parks and Recs, the Merchants of Music Festival, Renaissance Board. That weren't there, they've actually progressed. So if we want to, destination's bad word, but if we want to draw people in, we make sure we have a universal language that everybody can understand for our city, to make sure they understand that they want to be here, that we are working with them to make things better and move forward. So I'm really excited to see what you guys bring to the table. So thank you, and thank you, Ken and Sam. Sincerely.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just to summarize, this does not require action from council at this moment in time. You had an opportunity to meet the end result of a process that you just heard about. And so moving forward, I think it's incumbent upon council to fund this activity. You'll have an opportunity to do that in your next budget. Obviously, you've committed to it this far, and you'll get the numbers associated with moving forward with a project like this. So it'll really come through the budget process to finalize any type of an agreement with this particular partner. So that's how we'll proceed.
Okay, we're down to the second order of business, consideration of amendment for the code enforcement.
I'll be very brief, and Tim, you can jump in at any point. This is a conversation that has come about recently, and I'll admit that it's one that I wanted to get before I got out the door, which is why I'm in front of you tonight.
And what we have learned over time, we adopted a new code enforcement policy that was provided under statutory scheme in 2018 by adoption of an ordinance. What we have learned to date is we still have issues that fall beyond our reach in terms of gaining compliance with particular types of zoning ordinance issues of complaint, violation, and so we're trying to strengthen our ordinance, and really that's what this is about. If you just take a quick look at it, we're really requesting to change the fine schedule, and not the first offense, because that part is working. The part that we're recommending for change is the second offense, and they're basically being requested to be, I guess more than double, really, from 200 to 500 and from 400 to 1,000, correct? And here's why, in the simplest of terms. We and Sam could attest to this. The violations that we still have on record that we cannot get resolved typically involve properties that are not being maintained and not being occupied. And the best way for us to address them is to increase the fines that are levied to a level that it either A, gets their attention, and or B, it gives sufficient fines against the property. And again, typically they are vacated properties that are not occupied, and it allows the city to place a lien and then follow that up at a level where we can institute a foreclosure on those properties to remedy those issues. So we're not finding an increase in fees that would really affect an everyday resident who just has an issue with the property. It's the ones that are continuously ignored. The fines don't amount enough to them to have them forced to take action. And we feel like this fine structure would allow us to accomplish that. And so really the request in the reading would be to increase the fines as recommended. Tim worked on kind of the background for this, so we appreciate that. I think I summarized it correctly.
Spot on.
Do you have anything to add?
We have very few properties that ever get to a third offense. Almost everything. There just aren't a lot of problems to begin with. And the ones that do get a notification almost always remedy the problem immediately. Sam can attest to this. Almost never do you get to the point where you have a $100 offense. But we do have several properties that are just chronic problems. And it's really, we're hearing neighbors that are complaining about it, reasonably so. And this is about the only way that we can put enough teeth into the system to hopefully get their attention. All we want them to do is make the appropriate fixes so that the city's fine with it and that their neighbors are comfortable that their property values are not being brought down. So I think that was it. Spot on.
Sam, could you walk us through the process on reporting a violation, or how do we get to this point?
I'm Sam Shelton, 21 Fairfield Place, City Administrative Assistant. So how it goes about doing it is, the first step is accepting the code violation from somebody in a neighborhood, essentially. And anyone can make a call into our office, the General Services Department, and they can leave us a note. It is completely anonymous. We do not know sometimes who the complaints come from, and we do not put that out for anyone to know. Once we have the complaint in it, I put it onto a list of properties that are going to be inspected. Usually that's kind of towards the end of the week, where we do a whole check of all the properties. We go out, we overlook the property for what the code violation is presented as. If it is in violation, then we go back to the office, we write up a violation. It's just a notice. First one is just to inform the homeowners of like, your property is in violation. We quote the subsection out of our zoning, our city ordinance, and the International Property Maintenance Code. And we submit that to them along with a little note, such as, and people laugh when I say it, our biggest violation here in Fort Thomas that we get is the length of grass. And so we send a thing saying, please cut your grass. and we send them the letter. Usually they get back to us. We give them a week to respond back, in which then it's mostly by then it's usually cut, or they fix their mistake. They call us in, being like, hey, we would like to have an inspection redone of our property. We have done X, Y, and Z in order to correct it. In this case, and which Tim has been working on, these are actually properties that when I came to the city 3 years ago as a part-time intern for the city, were properties that were still on the docket to be dealt with, all three of these properties. And it's embarrassing that they are still a problem today, and it's because we constantly have sent letters each year to citing them, finding them. Every Friday it's become a tradition of mine to go to these properties, drive past them, look at them, go back to my office, write up 3 letters to 3 properties, and cite them for the $200 and so forth. And we've been doing that lately for, I think we're on week 8 this year of finding them. And it's one of those things where they are not getting back to us. And that's not really the case for most of them. We have a very high percentage, I would say around 93% approval, that all the violation letters that we send out at a notice gets resolved within a week or 2 of receiving the letter. So, but it's these properties that are ones that are have a lot of problems with them. The homeowner hasn't gotten back to us, and the proposal that Tim has presented before the board today has as he said, has some teeth to it, to give this position the ability to enforce it, to clean these violations up, and to set things right into these neighborhoods. One of them is just a house that is completely abandoned on a property, and that is actually on my street. So it is kind of a personal thing that a house has been sitting for, I think it's 18 years vacant. And it's about time to clean it up and move it along as much as possible.
Stan, does your department also handle the inoperable vehicles, or is that strictly a PD thing?
So it depends on if the car is located on the property. I only deal with cars that are located on the property.
Okay, so if it's on the street, it's on.
It is a PD. That's a very good question. Yeah, we get that one right there.
Are they paying the fines when we send them, or are they just ignoring the letters?
So they are just ignoring the letters as of right now. I know they are receiving them. They haven't come back to our department. However, as I've said, around 93% of all of our notices that we send out are just notices.
Sure, it's not 93.5. It's 93.
Just want to be super accurate here. Does that result in a lien? So does that result in a lien on the property if they're just ignored, or?
And if I can help with that.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about too. What's the next
What
step?
happens, we send a notice out, then eventually there's a notice of violation. That in and of itself, if they don't respond within the appropriate time frame set forth in the notice, it becomes its own fine because it's uncontested. We're able to lien the property. Now, I can tell you that these properties, we're not getting their attention with the types of numbers we're talking about. We can continue to lien the property. It's an issue where, as a city, we have to make a decision. At what point do we want to go through the process of filing liens? At what point do you want to, God forbid, file a foreclosure action against this particular property? The city doesn't want people's properties. The city doesn't want to hurt their residents. They just want these fixes to be made. And we're hopeful that this will happen with the increased fines. But at some point, the city and
Is that a discretionary thing, or will it be a written policy as to how many notices go out before a lien is filed?
we're still in the process of formulating that policy because it really, again, it's not very few properties we have this problem with. And over the past few years, it's become chronic with a few of these properties. So I think it's now at that point where we're formulating policies. When will we foreclose?
This is the first step before we have to make something that's more aggressive. Where we draw a line in the sand at some point.
It really just accelerates the fine schedule that to either get their attention to make a movement on the property, or it gets to a value that it's worthwhile for us to go through the legal process we're not gonna file a lien and collect $100 or $200.
Right.
But if they're not taking care of the property and it's being fined, it should be fined at a level that either they do something about it or they let the property go because it's a burden on that community. And Sam's not wrong. The property he's referring to on Fairfield has been in our process for years. They cut the grass, they do the minimal amount necessary to get by for another year. Just enough, but it's vacant. We have to deal with it again the next year, and the next year, and the next year. And this just allows an opportunity to accelerate that process, get it into a legal process where we can resolve the issue. And that's what we need to do as a community.
Did I hear correctly that you can send a notice out every Friday?
That is what I've been doing for the past 8 weeks for these 3 properties, is continually finding them
And
each
right
Friday.
now, that's $200?
Yes, $200 collectively.
So that's $1,600 for 8 weeks, but if we really want to get one of these houses, if it's $1,000 a week.
That would greatly speed up the process.
Now you want to file a lien, because now it's up to $8,000. So now it's gonna do something, or if it keeps going on, so we can do that, you can fine them $1,000 a week. If we, cool, let's pass this.
Does that fall underneath this fee schedule, or is it, what do you consider a first offense to a third offense? Is it the same offense not remedied?
Same offense not remedied.
All right, so there's a warning shot first, and then.
There's a warning shot, and there's a notice, second offense, third offense, of course, report that 6, 7, 8.
I noticed on this, real quick, that you had vegetation still over $100, everything else was changed too.
Yes.
Is that on purpose?
And, for first offense, as Ron had indicated, that there's someone who maybe is, having taken a little time to get to it, we don't want to be overly penal.
On his grass.
Yeah.
Grass is the toughest one.
Yes.
It's our biggest complaint that we get is the grass each year, and people laugh at it. It's like, really? Is that really? And it's true. We get code violation calls in each week about it. Thankfully, however, usually by just sending one notice, by the time it gets to them, the grass is cut. So.
Yeah, I think this change is welcome news, and I just want to say, not relating to the chronic properties, which I know a couple of them, one real close to Ken and I, and one real close to the office where I work, but I've talked to some residents in the last 2 weeks, probably 10 days, about some of the a little more minor issues, a little more substantial than tall grass, but they've had nothing but positive things to say about you and your responsiveness and the fact that we're still keep up the good work. I think it's an awesome part of your role you're doing, so thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Awesome for us, probably not always for you. Thank you.
Are they current under tax? Is it all the property? They are.
I think syndicates are, or we would have gone through a process. Sure. It's like I said, it's really select few that just snub their nose in the process. And for whatever reason, they hang on to these properties that are right in the neighborhood, and they just won't get rid of them, and they won't take care of them. And we don't have a method to force anything to change. And this is really geared to try to accomplish that.
Very peculiar as to why.
Yeah.
Can one of those liens be sort of during your title search, that it's finally say, I'm really tired of hearing this?
Absolutely.
But that's easy, because I can't sell my house because I'm not paying for my fine. I think that in itself, coupled with the escalating fine, if I can't pay the title search, that's a big down.
Absolutely.
So I think that's really easy.
And that's all true. And then the next step is the fact that that's true, and they still haven't done anything. Right. To force them to actually take some action to remedy the problem, or face a notice of foreclosure. I think that would be really important.
What's your timeline on establishing the lien step?
And candidly, this is a policy that we're kind of creating now. Because it really, these 3 have continued to be persistent in their failure to remedy. And so I think that's something that Ron, Sam, and I, Joe have talked about. And it's probably something that Matt will continue to try to come up with an idea of what's the sweet spot for. Usually, I think if you get to the point where he's talking about $2, $3, $4, $5,000 of liens, that doesn't get your attention. I don't know what it is. foreclosure eventually will, because you'll resolve it. Hopefully you never get to that.
Yeah. Well, it's on the agenda further now for first reading. So we will have to do the second reading. First we can remind everybody. So are we good on this?
Yeah. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Sam. It still seems a little.
Thank you, Tim.
I mean, we might have to define it a little better and not just make it discretionary depending on, the individual case. But wouldn't there have to be an ordinance that says after so many weeks, then this happens, and so many more weeks, this happens?
No, I don't think so.
No?
I mean, Tim can research that a little further, but just like taxes, when we get to a point where we think we're not dealing with somebody on the other end, we file for foreclosure for back taxes. So there's no defined limit. If we have a continuum and they continue to not react, then we institute that process. So we're not going to go out. Our interest is not in finding our residents. Our interest is not in filing liens. Our interest is not in foreclosure.
Right.
If we're at that point, I think everybody in the room could probably be in agreement that that's the appropriate action to change.
As long as we couldn't be accused of being punitive if one violator knows of another violator that's had the same duration, but he didn't get that fine, then it could get a little weird. So
I would say two things, Ken.
Yes.
Number one, Sam is persistent but patient, you suppose. When we get to the point where we're doing this type of activity, it's chronic. It really is. And the first one's $100. We can lean for that if we want. Legally, we're permitted to, but historically, we've not been even close to that. So, but hopefully, this will help us remedy those chronic problems.
All right, great. Let's move on to the next thing, discussion related to Fort Thomas Independent Schools use of the city building.
We've had some ongoing conversation. We're going to have a wonderful city building when it's finally completed, by the way. And it's going to afford a lot to our community. It's intended in its design and purpose to be available to the community on a much greater scale than what was previously. We've created amenities inside the building that will be attractive to civic groups, to individuals potentially, and certainly to the activities that the city performs. We do have a potential partner that has interest in the space as well, and that's our own Fort Thomas School District. They are making changes on their facilities that are no longer going to have use of the property of 20 grand. They've ceased that arrangement that they had there. They've held their board meetings in their central office, but they would like the opportunity to have a conversation with the city for a potential to hold their public meetings and their board meetings at the city building, because it will have everything they need to do public hearings for our community. They are in a position where they're willing to be a partner. We are going to have different needs when we open a brand new city building for maintenance, for technology. They would like to be a part of that, potentially, as consideration for the ability for them to conduct some of their meetings there. Their first ask really is to make it available for their regularly scheduled school board meetings, which is the second Monday. See how an arrangement might work moving forward. And we have had some conversations about how that might be offset with some of the costs that we'll have for maintenance in the building, daily maintenance in the building, that they could incur some of that burden of cost as part of the consideration for them having availability in the space. I think it's a great use of the space. I think it's a great partnership for the community. And if you're interested, I think the next step would be to formalize some type of an agreement that would be defined with specific terms about how they would participate, what we would offer them specifically, and then let that relationship build over time. They're not asking for anything long-term. If it doesn't work for us, if it doesn't work for them, it can be modified. There'll be an out clause. It could be a 30-day clause on either side. But I think it's definitely worth exploring as a great use for our building, for our community.
Yeah, I think it's exactly what we designed it for.
When does the 20 grand expire? I mean, they lost their lease. I don't know what's going on there.
They chose not to renew the lease, and that was their That was cost savings for them, and that was a choice that they made. So they did not renew the lease arrangement there.
So are they month to month now, or how's?
No, I'm not positive, but I think they're out of that lease very, very soon, at the end of this school year, basically. So,
Do we need to make a motion to accept this?
I think a motion to allow the mayor to enter into an agreement that allows the district to have an ongoing agreement.
Motion made. I think
And
it's
it can be
perfect.
brought back with specifics to council.
Well, yeah, I mean, you need to, you're essentially talking leads, right?
Right.
Yeah, so, I mean, there must be, these must exist in other communities, so, yeah. So the idea, it doesn't need to go to a committee.
No.
Just drag.
But council,
I think council
will
just
have the
authorizing
opportunity
the
to
mayor
approve the terms, I would hope.
to negotiate the lease.
Yeah, I think make a motion to accept that. The mayor getting negotiations with the school to use our facility. I think it's exactly what it was for.
How big is the room that they're talking about having meetings in?
It's the old council chamber.
I just mean, I don't know what the number of, like, seats.
I'm not sure I can tell you exactly the number of people that it holds. Our new council chambers is the same size as the old one.
I mean, I don't know if it's 10 or 40 or 80.
It's probably
Like
like 70 by 30.
75 was the last one.
Thank you.
And you know, I would want you to 75. That narrows it down between 10 and 40 or.
The nice thing about this new one will be
Thank
the
you.
I told you we
technology
had a
will be
great
there to
team.
carry it online a little easier too.
Pardon me?
I said, I told you we had a great team. You knew the answer.
The technology is gonna be there too as well in this one. We're gonna be finally up to date, so it'll carry well, better than we currently have with our camera and our system in the mess hall here. So people will be able to hear a lot better.
We had a motion in a second.
All in favor, is it everybody vote?
Oh, sorry.
We had a motion in a second.
Is there a motion in a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That's good.
You do roll call, because we might be spending.
Roll call.
This was
It's just making sure you get money, yeah.
this was allow him to start negotiating. It wasn't approving a contract or a deal.
Yeah. See, I did it right.
Well, it's allowed them to get into a contract.
No, not to enter into it, it's to start negotiating, the way I understood the motion.
Yeah, okay.
Do you wanna do it both ways to be sure?
All right, so now we're done with new business, right? No more new business? Okay, now we're down to routine stuff. Okay, finance committee report.
Boring stuff.
Yes, you did.
Report of disbursements, April 15th through May 13th, 2022. General fund, $204,871.64. Public Works KDOT fund, $32,007.15. CBD revitalization, $50,397.41. Waste fees, $101,998.54. Police and Fire Pension Fund, $1,519.07. Total, $390,793.81. Weigh the undersigned members of the Finance Committee recommend that warrants numbered 11057 through 11190 be approved and the treasurer be authorized to issue checks for their payment. Mr. Henry, chairperson, Mr. Beazle, member, Ms. Kelly, member.
Entertained motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Kelly. Mr. Henry.
Aye.
Mr. Bowman.
Aye.
Mr. Beazle.
Aye.
Mr. Blau.
Aye.
Mr. Peterman.
Okay, now we're down to ordinances. The first one is the second reading.
Ordinance number 003-2022, an ordinance amending section 75, schedule 3 of the City of Fort Thomas Code of Ordinances by setting the speed limit for Grant Street and Woodville Avenue.
Entertained motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Is there a second?
Is it? Lisa got it.
Okay. I'm not voting for that.
Read it.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Kelly. Aye. Mr. Henry.
Aye.
Mr. Bowman.
Aye.
Mr. Beazle.
Aye.
Mr. Blau.
Aye.
Mr. Peterman.
Aye. Okay, the next one, please.
Ordinance number 004-2022, an ordinance amending ordinance number 007-2021 by establishing the annual salary for the position of city administrative officer.
This is the first reading. Next ordinance.
Ordinance number O.
I'm sorry, I have a question. This is infrastructure. What is the start date? Is that not
Next Monday.
Excuse me.
Next Monday.
This coming Monday or?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not this Monday, next Monday.
When is it? Do we have an official that date for you? Right now?
Well, technically, I'll be retired at the end of June, so I will be available, to conduct city business until that time. After that, because of the pension system, I will not be able to work on the office.
For how many months? Before we bother you again?
90 days.
Perfect, just want to make sure I set my calendar.
Okay. Ordinance number O05/2022, an ordinance amending and modifying the fine schedule set forth in the City of Fort Thomas Ordinance O5/2018, Section 34.13, so as to replace said ordinance by raising the fines on the second offense of violations.
Okay, that also is the first reading, as we just discussed. Are down to municipal orders.
Municipal Order MO8/2022, a municipal order reappointing Jeff Moore as a member of the Fort Thomas Street Commission for the City of Fort Thomas, Campbell County, Kentucky, and setting his term of office.
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Municipal Order MO9/2022, a municipal order reappointing Lori Wendling as a member of the Design Review Board of the City of Fort Thomas, Campbell County, Kentucky, and setting her term of office.
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Executive Order EO11/2022, an executive order appointing Leticia Nestler as a member of the Renaissance Board of the City of Fort Thomas, Campbell County, Kentucky, and setting her term of office. Executive Order EO12/2022, an executive order appointing Michelle Knight as a member of the Renaissance Board of the City of Fort Thomas, Campbell County, Kentucky, and setting her term of office. And Executive Order EO13/2022, an executive order appointing Kathy Sonnet as a member of the Renaissance Board of the City of Fort Thomas, Campbell County, Kentucky, and setting her term of office.
Yay! Yay, Marilyn, that is the end of our meeting. Thank you all very much for attending.